Welcome back to Run Amok. Ladies and gentlemen, quite a big day, quite a lot of news to cover. Obviously, free agency just kicking off. Nothing can be official till Wednesday. Hopefully, you're watching this by Tuesday night, maybe Wednesday morning. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more moves by the time this video comes out, by the time you're watching this video. But we're going to go ahead, we're going to cover what has gone down already. Just because I do want to talk about it. I do want to talk about it. Of course, stay tuned for the rest of the week. On Sunday, we're going to have our Sunday show, hopefully regularly scheduled this week. Unfortunately, I was having some problems uploading the video this week, and that's why I had to come out on Monday. This week, hopefully, we can get that done for Sunday. Alrighty, so let's jump right in. I hope you're doing well. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for coming into another episode of Run Amok. Alrighty, so let's go on ahead. Free agency. Start off with the quarterbacks. Not too many notable names out there, but the top one, Kirk Cousins, signs with the Atlanta Falcons. Not too much of a surprise. Of course, we heard all the rumors coming out that Atlanta's interested in him. He's between Atlanta and Minnesota. You know, Atlanta doesn't want Justin Fields. They got Kirk Cousins as their top priority, and they make it officially official. The 35-year-old, coming off an Achilles injury, signs with this young stud rostered team. 4 years, $180 million contract. Think it's a little bit crazy, but I guess when you get more into the contract details, it is more of like a 2-year contract. It's a lot of it is backloaded, I believe, and they can get rid of the contract after like 2 years, which I think that 2 years would have been much more fair for Kirk Cousins. But if he does play out through the rest of the contract, that would be kind of crazy. I'm not a big fan of it personally. I don't think that he brings Atlanta to their best to what they could be. To I was a big advocate for Justin Fields in Atlanta, and that's no secret. I was big on it, but it seems like that's not happening. Obviously, who knows where Justin Fields is going to go? That'll be a separate episode. But yeah, Kirk Cousins in Atlanta, they'll do good. They'll do good. You know, Kyle Pitts will get that ball. Drake London will get that ball. The run game will be there. So it's not like it's a bad pickup for Atlanta. I'm just not a fan of it. I think that it would have been better had they gone ahead and gone with the potential of Justin Fields. And sure, maybe it's a little ridiculous, yada, yada, yada. I'm a big potential guy. And I think that Fields definitely has the most potential. And I think he would have elevated that entire Atlanta offense. Baker Mayfield stays with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm just going off this list per PFF, so of course, shout out PFF. Ryan Tannehill unsigned. Russell Wilson goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers after getting cut by the Denver Broncos. 1 year, $1.2 million contract. I believe that's like the minimum. The only quarterback getting paid less, my 49ers, Brock Purdy. Obviously, that's what, Mr. Relevant will get you. But perfect. I think this is a good deal for both parties. Wilson gets a chance to restart his career in a well-established franchise, and the Steelers, they go with a low-risk, high-reward quarterback. 1.2 million is nothing in the wide scheme of things in the NFL. And yeah, most of his contract is getting paid for by the Denver Broncos. They're paying him like for $80 million over the course of these next 2 seasons. This works out well for the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially because now you've still got a lot of money. You can go splurge elsewhere. You can build a better receiving core. I definitely think that they can use a better receiving core, especially after just trading Deontay Johnson to the Carolina Panthers. That's something else we can get into when you get into the receiver mix. But Wilson to the Steelers, I like it. The Steelers also made another move going on ahead, and I'm jumping around a little bit here. Sue me, but they went on ahead and they signed Patrick Queen, probably the best linebacker in this mix. 3 years, $41 million. I love it. I think that Queen was a little bit of a merchant of the Mac McDonald system, and I really thought that he was going to go and follow his coach and go to the Seahawks. But he went with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the division rival, which is a theme that we'll see a lot getting into. And we'll see how well he does. I think that Steelers are good on all fronts on the defense, though. Safeties, you've got Minkah Fitzpatrick. Corners, maybe they can use another corner beside Joey Porter. I think Pat P, either he's a free agent or either way, even if he isn't a free agent, you still want to replace him at some point. And so I definitely don't hate that at all. Going out and get Patrick Queen and Wilson. So I definitely like the Steelers being active in this market, and they're in a tough division, but I do see them sneaking into the wild card position for sure. Gardner Minshew to the Raiders. I'm just gonna skip over kind of these role guys. Jacoby Brissett in the Patriots, 1 year, $8 million. I like it. I think Brissett deserves a shot. We'll see if he's the starting quarterback or not. Jameis Winston to the Cleveland Browns. That's a fun one. Tyrod Taylor to the Jets. Sam Darnold to the Minnesota Vikings. Really makes me think that the Vikings are going to go and draft a quarterback, because I don't think Sam Darnold should be a starting quarterback, especially for a team like the Vikings. But I think that he can be a good backup quarterback. Just kind of he's a good bridge quarterback. He okay, sure, I say not a great starting quarterback. He can start a couple weeks into the season waiting for that rookie quarterback coming off the bench. So the Vikings are a team to watch to potentially trade into the top 3 to get one of the top 3 guys. And that's going to be it for the quarterbacks. And now on to the running backs. And please excuse my voice if it sounds a little off. Going through a little bit of a cough. My throat is all messed up. So please excuse if my voice sounds a little off. All right, so into the running backs. Obviously the top guy, Saquon Barkley. Everybody was predicting him going to the Ravens or going here, going there. And then the Philadelphia Eagles swoop in. Bang, they throw it back at him. 3 years, $37.75 million. I believe making him the second highest paid running back. Big move for Philadelphia. Big move for the offense. Wow. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. That offense is unstoppable. We'll see how they can put it all together. Of course, with Brian Johnson out, and who's their OC now? Kellen Moore. With Kellen Moore in now, we'll see how he can translate. I'm sure he'll be fine. I think that he is going to run the ball a lot more. We saw with DeAndre Swift, they kind of just really didn't feed him the ball when they should have at times. You've got a really talented running back in the back there now with a really good offensive line. I think Barkley and the Eagles are going to feast on other teams' defenses. Josh Jacobs signs with the Green Bay Packers. This came off to a little bit of a surprise. I really thought that he was going to either go to the Bears or stay as Raider. And then the Packers, again, just kind of swooped in, throw a 4-year, $48 million contract at him. And for a couple minutes, it was like, wow, Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones, that is an elite 1-2 punch under a Matt LaFleur offense with Jordan Love at the helm. We're going to see a lot of dangerous 2 running back sets. And then they went on ahead and they cut Aaron Jones. And Aaron Jones ended up going and signing with the division rival, the Minnesota Vikings. Again, we're going to get into a lot of division rival signings. It just seems like it's not even a thing anymore. Yeah, so I think that's a solid pickup. You upgrade at a position of not real need, but you upgrade at a position, you get a little younger, and Jacobs gives you a very reliable guy in the backfield. Derrick Henry today makes it official with the Baltimore Ravens. I'm happy with it. There was a lot of rumors, a lot of whispers. I'm glad that's all over with, and the King finds his spot. 2 years, $16 million. About $8 million a year. I believe it can go up to $20 million. That's going to be nice. That's going to be dangerous. Again, we talked about Hurts and Barkley in the back. Now we got Lamar and Henry. And I think if they can go on ahead and they can get J.K. Dobbins again for a cheaper deal, it'll be better for both guys. Dobbins being injury prone, and Henry just getting a little older now. Having that type of thunder and lightning, I would be a big fan of. Tony Pollard signs with the Tennessee Titans. He is going to be the Henry replacement. Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears together. Could be interesting. 3 years, $24 million contract. Tony Pollard really disappointed a lot of people, a lot of Cowboys fans after in the second half of the season. He kind of just fell off a cliff. And I'm not really sure the direction the Titans go. I feel like, they haven't even got a receiver. I mean, I think that the Titans are kind of not going to be super well this year. Respectfully, though, of course. Austin Eckler with the Washington Commanders. The Commanders is a name that we're going to bring up a lot today. They were just throwing money at anybody. I think this is just a whatever pickup. You already got Brian Robinson. You lost Antonio Gibson. Eckler will give you some pass catching in the back there, so he's kind of similar to what Gibson was able to bring you, but he's definitely lost a step, and he's not that elite running back that he once was. DeAndre Swift signs with the Chicago Bears, 3 years, $24 million contract. Again, I'm not super stoked about this one. I feel like with as much talent as there was with Jacobs, with Barkley, with even Henry, honestly, I don't think that Swift was the best option, especially when the Bears got him. He was like the first pickup. So I can't say I'm exactly a fan. He did great with Philadelphia, but Philadelphia is a totally different team than the Chicago Bears. Philadelphia had a good offensive line, then the Bears are building. They're going through a rebuild right now. I mean, so not a fan of that one. Singletary signs, Devin Singletary signs with the New York Giants. Gus Edwards signs with the Los Angeles Chargers. I love that fit, ground and pound type running back, and I do believe that they're going to go on ahead and they're going to draft Blake Corum. So that is going to be a really, really good set with Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman. AJ Dillon unsigned. Zach Moss goes to the Bengals, who cut Joe Mixon, but then didn't officially cut him and then traded him to the Houston Texans. So another team who needed a running back, kind of like the Bears, and they got their guy. And I think that Mixon, again, is better than Swift. So I like that move for the Texans. He gives, again, some reliability in the backfield. You can hand it off and feel comfortable going with your guy. I like Joe Mixon in Houston. Antonio Gibson goes to the Patriots. And then DJ Dallas signs with the Arizona Cardinals. So that's going to round it off for the running backs. Into the receivers, this market is dull. The number one name was T. Higgins. He was franchise tagged by the Bengals. He is a trade candidate, however. So we'll see what goes on there. Michael Pittman. He re-signed with the Colts, 3 years, $70 million. And then Mike Evans, he re-signed with the Buccaneers, 2 years, $41 million. And then it's just dry. There is nobody else really worth much. You got Calvin Ridley, who's probably the top receiver candidate, which is kind of crazy. We don't really still know what he's got left in him. But I believe this is like his second contract in the NFL, which is insane. Calvin Ridley, it sounds like he's choosing either between the Patriots or the Jaguars, which him and the Patriots could be kind of interesting because they're in a position where they can go in and they can get Marvin Harrison or they can get a quarterback. We'll see what happens there. And then you got Marquise Brown, who's unsigned still. Darnell Mooney, who signed with the Falcons, 3 years, $39 million. Kind of a big contract for Mooney, in my opinion, but I mean, there isn't very many receivers out there. Gabe Davis signs with the Jaguars, 3 years, $39 million as well. I feel like Jaguars have always just had receiver twos. No real receiver one on that team. I mean, Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk, like those guys, they're receiver twos. Let's be honest with ourselves for a second. And then just a lot of guys are unsigned right now still. The receiver market is very dull, and nobody really notable here to talk about because they're all unsigned. But definitely a lot of names still out there. Odell, Tyler Boyd, Curtis Samuel, Michael Thomas, Marquez Valles, Scantling. Just a lot of players out there still. So the receiver market is something that is got to be rounding off soon. The tight end market, Dalton Schultz was re-signed. Hunter Henry was re-signed. Dalton Schultz to the Texans, of course. Henry to the Patriots. Again, nothing really crazy in the tight end market. So for the teams that needed receivers, to teams that needed pass catchers, this was not the offseason for you. However, this is a draft for you. That's a great point as to why these receivers are not flying off the board as well, because you've got the draft coming up in a month. Why waste your time with these old washed up guys when you can go on ahead in the draft a very deep receiver class and get a young guy for a cheap deal who could be for your franchise pass catcher? So I definitely can, like, these receivers are going to be getting very cheap deals, if any at all. So yeah, that'll probably explain it. Offensive tackles is another one where it seems a little dry because the draft class coming up is so talented. Tyron Smith, he's still out there. Trent Brown, Mekhi Becton, like those guys are good, suitable tackles, but very, very good draft class coming up with younger talent, cheaper talent. But the one guy that I do want to talk about, Mike Onwenu, re-signs with the Patriots, 3 years, $57 million, a big contract for a very, very good player, very underrated. And again, not much left to talk about because these guys aren't getting signed. The centers, nobody really. Guards, the guards were some of the biggest stories in this free agency because they were getting such big bags. Kevin Dotson resigns with the Los Angeles Rams, 3 years, $48 million. Robert Hunt, he's getting $20 million a year, 5 years, $100 million contract with the Carolina Panthers. And they also went out and got Damian Lewis, 4 years, $53 million. I like what Carolina's doing. I dig it. Most teams will build their offensive line outside in, right? But Carolina, they are going inside out. Okay, they have got their center. They're getting their guards. They've got Ike Ekwonu on that left side, and yeah, you protect Bryce Young. And I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying, "Hey, the best way to protect a shorter quarterback is to protect that inside." I like what they're doing. That's how you ensure confidence in your young quarterback. Coming off of a really sorry rookie season, caught a lot of scrutiny. The Carolina Panthers are putting their full faith in Bryce Young. They went ahead and got Deontay Johnson. I can definitely expect them with the first pick in the second round to get a receiver. Go Carolina, man. Go Carolina. Alrighty. And who else? So we got Ariza Cleveland, who went to the Jacksonville Jaguars, re-signed there. John Runyon with the New York Giants. Jonah Smith with the Rams as well. Again, similar to what Carolina was doing. Beef up the guards. The tackles will come. And then Graham Glasgow re-signs with the Detroit Lions. Who's still out there? Dalton Risner, who I thought was a really solid guard, but hey, he's still lingering. You got Kevin Zeitler, who getting a little older, but I still think a very suitable guard. And that's going to round it off for the offensive side of things. Folks, let's hop into defense, where I feel like there's a little bit more star-studded talent, a little bit more a big, a high-end, big market guys. So we ended with guards on the offense. Now let's start with the guards of the defense, if you will, the defensive tackles, the interior offensive defensive line. Chris Jones re-signs with the Kansas City Chiefs, 5 years, $158.75 million. Wow. What a contract. Well deserved, though. He's a big... It's really hard to be a defensive lineman and be a big playoff performer, to be a game wrecker. He is one of those guys. When his time is needed, he steps up. We saw that in the Super Bowl. We've seen it consistently. Chris Jones stays in Kansas City. The question is, what are they going to do with L'Jarius Sneed? We'll see what happens. Justin Madubuike re-signs with the Baltimore Ravens, 4 years, $98 million. He had last season he had a breakout season. And then he went and he got himself a bag. Very much well-deserved. Christian Wilkins signs with the Vegas Raiders. 4 years, $110 million. A very, very fair contract. He is a top 5, top 3 defensive tackle in the league, wherever you want to put him. And him and Max Crosby on that D-line are going to wreak havoc for opposing quarterbacks. And I think that Antonio Pierce has really got that team set to win. I love what he's doing there. Another coach who I love, who's actually, no, we'll get into him a little bit later. Leonard Williams resigns with the Seattle Seahawks. Grover Stewart stays with the Colts. Javon Kinlaw signs with the New York Jets. And after there's really a big fall off though after Leonard Williams. Then you got DJ Reader, who is still unsigned. He's probably the last remaining defensive tackle really worth giving a crap about. Maybe Sheldon Rankins as well. And that's pretty much going to round it off for the defensive tackles. Teams are throwing big bags at the big boys in the middle, and I like it. Going on to the edge defenders, Josh Allen. Franchise tagged by the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's staying put. They're probably working on an extension. Brian Burns, tagged by the Carolina Panthers, and then traded to the New York Giants for a 2nd and a 5th round pick. What a steal. I mean, man, you got to give it to the Giants for swooping in on this deal, and now you've got Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Sexy Dexy Lawrence on that defensive line. A lot of question marks still on that team. They're still going to be a really bad team. But you got Brian Burns. You got a really good edge rush. You got a really good pass rush. They might put up, they might average like 5 sacks a game. You might get 5 wins. There's that. I mean, it's a good deal. Burns gets paid second. He's the second highest paid defensive end in the league, and so yeah, that's fun. That's fun. Danielle Hunter goes to the Houston Texans. This is the guy who I wanted to talk about. DeMeco Ryans. We're gonna get into it. The Houston Texans are making moves, fellas. 2 years, $49 million for Danielle Hunter. A really, really good edge rusher. Gonna be alongside Will Anderson Jr. Oh boy. Oh boy. This Texans team is going to be fun to watch next year. They were already fun this year. Next year is just going to be a cherry on top. It's going to be icing on the cake. It's going to be fireworks, folks. I don't even know where they go in the draft. I don't know what their holes are. Maybe offensive line. Maybe they can use some secondary help, but the Houston Texans, man, DeMeco Ryans has just changed the entire environment of this team, and I am so here for it. Alrighty, next up for the edge rushers, we've got Bryce Huff, who goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, 3 years, $51.1 million contract. I really like this move for the Eagles. Seems like they're going to either trade Josh Sweat or Hassan Reddick or both. And so this is a really, really solid pickup. I'm a big fan of Bryce Huff. He's coming off of a really good season with double-digit sacks, I believe. Let me see, actually, if I have his numbers here. Okay, I don't, so that sucks. But, yeah, Bryce Huff, a really solid pickup for the Philadelphia Eagles. And, yeah, Jonathan Grenard signs with the Minnesota Vikings, 4 years, $76 million. So, basically, the Texans and the Vikings just swapped edge rushers, which is kind of funny. But, yeah, that's fun. Jadeveon Clowney and Chase Young are still out there. Zadarius Smith re-signed with the Cleveland Browns. Listen to this one here. Josh Uche re-signed with the New England Patriots, 1 year, $3 million. You got to think that's some connection with the coach. You got to think that he is believing in Mayo and what he's going to build there with New England. Leonard Floyd signs with the 49ers. I'm a big fan of it. I like it. You got a double-digit sack guy coming in, helping Nick Bosa off the edge. Andrew Van Ginkel signs with the Vikings. Of course, Coach Brian Flores is with Minnesota, and I'm assuming, is a fan of Van Ginkel and getting them reunited. Danico Autry signs with the Houston Texans. Again, that's pressure in the middle, coming off the edge. Just a very solid rotational guy to pick up. Dorrance Armstrong, defensive tackle, I thought he was, signs with the Washington Commanders. Again, another team and another division rival. 3 years, $33 million. Brandon Graham re-signs with the Eagles. AJ Espinoza re-signs with the Buffalo Bills. Marcus Davenport signs with the Detroit Lions. 1 year deal. Another another team who needed some depth at the defensive line position. Clelin Ferrell signs with the Commanders, and yeah, a lot of really, really good guys still out there, though. A lot of good edge defenders, defensive tackles, defensive ends, whatever you want to call them. You've got some veterans like Calais Campbell. You got the young guys that you can bank on, like Chase Young, and then again, just some reliable guys like Kyle Van Noy, Romeo Aquara. I'm surprised he's still here, actually. Marcus Gold, Emmanuel Ogba. There's a lot of guys here that can definitely use a 1-2 year deal contract to some contending teams and bring some reliable pressure, some reliable run stopping. For linebackers, not too many guys out there. But Patrick Queen we already talked about. Frankie Louvu goes to the Commanders, again, making moves. 3 years, $31 million. Levante David re-signs with the Buccaneers, a 1 year deal. Figuring he's going to retire in a couple years. I thought maybe he would sign with a contending team, but he chooses to stay at home. Jordan Brooks signs with the Dolphins. I was actually kind of surprised about this. I thought the Seahawks would want him back, but no, they let him go. And he's a really, really solid linebacker. I don't know what Mike McDonald is building there, but I know his linebackers played a really big idea in Baltimore. Maybe they go and draft him. Bobby Wagner is still a free agent. He's still sitting out there. So I don't really know what Seattle's doing defensively. Azeez Al-Shaair with the Houston Texans. Again, DeMeco Ryans. They reunite. 3 years, $34 million contract. A very, very reliable linebacker. A great tackler. Very smart. Big fan of Azeez Al-Shaair. I think he plays himself into being a top 5 linebacker this year. Devin White unsigned still. And then after that, there's just a cliff that these guys fall off of. Isaiah Simmons still free agent, I see on this list here. Zach Cunningham. I can definitely expect with who is left though, the Philadelphia Eagles swooping in and signing. You got Bobby Wagner still out there, Jerome Baker still out there, Devin White, as I just said. Some of these guys, I feel like the Eagles are going to want to come in because they need some guys at linebacker. Maybe you can throw a cheap contract to these guys, and then they can join your roster. Going on to cornerbacks, Jalen Johnson, who was very big, obviously. Re-signed with the Chicago Bears, 4 years, $76 million. A very fair contract for both sides, I think. I don't know if he gave him a team-friendly deal or what it was, but I really like it. I really like it. And Johnson play like a top corner in the league this year. Going on, L'Jarius Sneed, he's franchise tag, predicted to get traded. We'll see what his market is. Sounds like he's been kind of dry. Sounds like the Titans are in the picture now. You got the Detroit Lions, the Titans. Gonna be interesting to see where he ends up though, or if he stays and plays on the tag. That could be interesting as well. Kendall Fuller is probably the best cornerback still out right now, which is absurd. Again, the cornerback market very dry this year as well. Likewise with the receivers, maybe because the draft class has some really good corners as well. Chidobe Awuzie, very solid corner you can go with. Goes to the Tennessee Titans, as we said, a 3-year deal. Stephon Gilmore still out there. Steven Nelson. Kenny Moore, the second, re-signs with the Indianapolis Colts, 3 years, $30 million. Probably the best slot corner in the league. I was hoping my Niners picked him up, but he is going to be good on any team. And then that's really pretty much all the corners that are worth talking about. I mean, you got Jeff Okudah, who signed with the Houston Texans. Good depth. He probably gonna play, going to play alongside Derek Stingley. I like it. I would say probably draft another corner later on though. And then Dante Jackson was traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers in that Deontay Johnson trade. And yeah, that's going to round off really who I care to talk about in the cornerback room. There's still some solid guys out there, okay? Let me not be disrespectful. Steven Nelson is a solid starter, and I can expect him probably returning to the Houston Texans. Adoree Jackson, you can definitely expect some guys, him to have a market. Reliable veteran. I just feel like the fall off for corners is so harsh that nobody really cares for these older guys. Ahkello Witherspoon is one of the younger vets, if that makes sense. So he might have a market. He might be a depth piece. Rocky Ya-Sin, I remember he had a couple good seasons, but he really hasn't lived with that form. But with how dire slot corners are, I think that he should have a market. And yeah, now going to the safety position. Whew, lots of talent in the safety pool. Antoine Winfield, franchise tag. He's staying in Tampa Bay. Kyle Duggar, he got the transition tag. So we'll see if he gets an offer, if New England wants to match it or not. Cameron Curl is unsigned. Xavier McKinney gets a big contract with the Green Bay Packers. 4 years, $68 million. I like it. I think he's really young. He's got a lot of potential. Kind of reminds you of that Xavier McKinney type role where he was doing good with Miami, gets traded, plays out of his mind. That could potentially happen here with Xavier McKinney. Geno Stone signs with division rival Cincinnati Bengals. And then unsigned, there's still a lot of guys that are very, very good. Let me actually go through the sign first. So CJ Gardner-Johnson goes back to the Philadelphia Eagles, 3-year deal, a max of $33 million. He was talking this and that about the Philly fans. That'll be interesting to see how they welcome him back. I do know that the Eagles, they wanted him back, though, because they missed his presence and the type of swagger he brought to the game. So I think that it'll be just fine for them. And yeah, I think that Detroit definitely is going to feel that hurt, though. Although he was kind of injured for most of the season, so maybe not. But Detroit definitely needs some secondary help still. Darnell Savage signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jeremy Chin going to the Washington Commanders. He's been very injury ruled, but I think that if he can stay healthy, he would be a very, very solid corner or very, very solid safety. Kind of that hybrid safety linebacker role. Taylor Rapp was cut by the Bills and then re-signed with the Bills for a 3-year deal. Jalen Mills is going to the New York Giants, and then Kevin Byard is signing with the Chicago Bears, which I think is a really, really good pickup for the Bears. They're a team that can use that secondary help. They've got elite corners, but their safeties definitely very iffy. Eddie Jackson is a free agent. They cut him. So I think that going younger and a very good deal for them for Kevin Byard, who didn't play phenomenal with the Eagles, but played well enough. I like it. But there's still so many good safeties out there, but the problem is just age. Cameron Curl, very reliable. I don't even think he's that old. Jordan Fuller, Jordan Whitehead, very good safeties out there. Tayshaun Gibson's a little older now. Mike Edwards, Micah Hyde, Jaron Curse, Eddie Jackson, as I just said. Ryan Neal is out there. Jordan Poyer, he signed with the Miami Dolphins. Actually, I just realized I skipped over a 1-year deal. Again, signing with the division rival. So the safety market still booming. Oh, and Justin Simmons too. Of course, how can I forget Justin Simmons? There is so many talented guys out there that teams should be after. And they're just not yet. Of course, we can wait until Wednesday. That's when things will probably start to pick up, when things become officially official. Right now, it's just verbal agreements, I believe. And yeah. So that's going to wrap up NFL free agency. Folks, if your team needs a safety, this is the time. I'm actually very interested in that safety market and why it's not getting more attention. There's a lot of very reliable, very good players that you can put out there and feel safe, no pun intended, with. And yeah, that's going to round off this free agency episode, folks. I will see y'all probably Sunday with the Sunday show, when everybody will hopefully probably fall into line and go with the teams at this they'll go into the teams and we'll talk about them with my guys, hopefully. And I'll see y'all then. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Run Amok. I'm your host, Jamin Takar. Make sure you check out the description below. Follow all the socials. And yeah, this was fun. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good and glorious stuff. I will see y'all in the next one. Peace out, folks.